Hello, everybody. It's February the 26th, and the year is 2022. I'm doing this video footage with a heavy heart, rather distressed, seeing what's going on in in the world stage, namely Russia Ukraine conflict. It's a full invasion in the last 2 days. I never thought it will come to this. I thought Russian President Putin was only using it, bringing his forces to as a show of display to negotiate, uh, to get what he wants in the deal. But then, in the end, unbeknownst to everybody, he really took an internecine approach to resolve the issues. So, what are the issues? I've been looking around, looking around in terms of what the media has to say. Of course, media is so full of propaganda and how they want the people to believe things to be, and it's replete with disinformation and misinformation. I mean, misinformation is when you're saying something incorrect, not knowing what is the truth. Disinformation is when you are propagating lies knowingly they are lies. So this news media is a narrative that they like the people to buy, and so that said, I never trust the media, and when media says something, it's not what they are saying that you need to be worried about. It's you need to think of what they are not saying. So I do my own research, go in, dig up internet, look different sources. There's sometimes everybody is an internet scholar. People write whatever that comes to my mind, but then there is also very useful information when you dig deep into and weed out all the unnecessary, baseless information. So that said, I'm very concerned. Wars are evil, but humankind throughout history have resorted to wars to settle their differences. It is sad to see what's happening now, but what's really happening, what be it the mainstream media or self-proclaimed YouTubers coming out and telling truth, something they believe to be, but nobody is touching on a very uh, important. Nobody is getting into the bottom of this issue and telling what has brought about this conflict. What did bring about this conflict? That's the question. What brought about this conflict? It's nothing but money. It's about money. The world is about money. The more money you have, the more power you have. No wars can be waged without money to feed the army, to prolonged wars only with it will deplete your coffers, right? But money is everything in the world. Human civilization has come a very long way. Greatest inventions have come up, have been part of human civilization. It has advanced our living standards, including this medium. With a handheld device, you can talk to anybody in the world and you can watch anything in the world. All that is advancement. Every force in nature was tapped into by the greatest brains, inventions, be it light, heat, electricity, whatever uh, they they discovered has changed the world. All that is great, but knowingly or unknowingly, what humankind invented rather than discovering. Two inventions control all the greatest discoveries of humankind. What are the two inventions? Whether you like it or not, one is money. Money rules everything, including all the inventions, all the discoveries. The second invention is what is considered to be unknown, and people want to be, without admitting their limited capacity to understand the unknown, they created what you call God. And of course, it's a neurotic superstition largely, but they promoted it. Around the world, religions have thriving business, and it is again a money garnering business, right? But it gives hope to the ones who are living under the bare minimum, right? And it gives a sense of security that something is going to take care of it, take care of them. But the rich and the wealthy, they use this to control human population, because collective consciousness rules the world, be it by way of what is color, what is God? It's collective consciousness. The more people believe in something, that becomes a power unto itself. What is the democratic process itself is the collective consciousness of the humanity. It's a number game. More numbers you elect, you express your, you through a ballot paper, you express your, you give the you express your consciousness. See what that when it becomes collective consciousness, it gives an individual the greatest power to rule the others. That's the way the world operates. All that apart, getting back to the Ukraine conflict, it's about money, one of man's invention. We all need money. The ruling powers, the more money they have, the stronger they are. The so-called Russian hegemonies and the American hegemonies, before that it's the British Empire, all these hegemonies were run by. Why did British conquer 84 countries and rule? Just to help these nations? No. They went to rob them, putting it crudely. What is war? It is a way of robbing another nation. If you go rob somebody on the street with a gunpoint, you'll be thrown into jail. But if 5,000 people go rob the stores, that is mutiny, protest, whatever you call it, right? And but if a country takes their army and goes invades another country, what is it? It is again robbing another nation. World wars about world, in spite of whatever reasons attributed or adduced, world wars. The bottom line, the reason for world war is about wealth control. Who is getting the bigger share of the money, the world resources? When you control the resources of the world, the greater share, you become a greater power. That's what it is. So here again, Russian-Ukraine conflict is about money. It's about who is controlling a greater share of the money. Ukraine largely was making their revenue through the pipelines of Russians running through the Ukrainian land. The pipes were laid under the ground. And Ukrainians wanted a bigger share, and Russians had to sacrifice a bigger part of their profit, which nobody likes. And so the demand became a conflict, but nobody talks about it. So what did Russians do in 2014? They annexed Crimea. Of course, there is history about it before 1955. You read up on that, all right? Crimea was part of Russia and all that. Again, before 1991, it was one union. It was one land mass. All these countries were known as Soviet Union. Today, after 1991 disintegration, there are 15 countries. Russia is half the population of US, about 150 million people. Much smaller manpower, much smaller army, but they are said to have more nuclear drones and missiles compared to US, right? So that has become, that's why US is hesitant with a, don't want to get into a direct conflict with Russia. Throughout, they have fought, you know, what you call proxy wars. They never get directly involved. They support two sides when they find a conflict, you know, aggravate the conflict between two countries, and they supply the weapons. Russia supplies supplies to one side. Ukraine supports to. I mean, U.S. supports supplies to the other side. And these are called proxy wars, but no direct conflict. And you know what it will be if these two countries come directly against one another in a direct war. That's the end of the world, right? Russia will not want it. US does not want it, and no other country want it. But they use it as a negotiating tactic to have their way, right? Any country that does not have nuclear weapons, like you know what happened to Saddam Hussein. The Allied forces went there because it's largely US. They pummeled Iraq. Whatever we don't want to get into, you know what happened to Libya, right? Because they went against the US monetary interest. You know how it all panned out. So many other countries. You know what happened to Afghanistan? There were 20 years, but the actual reasons for stay being it's it never made public, never makes it to public knowledge. It is, anyway, we are not getting into. Let's stick to the Ukraine. Ukraine wanted more money from Russia. They wanted bigger revenue. Russia refused to give it. And after 2014, they annexed Crimea and whatnot. Even Turkey shot down one of the Russian planes. Putin never got upset because he needed to have his pipelines. So he went to Turkey and even made an agreement to supply so many, I don't know, barrels of oils. I don't know, tens of thousands of barrels every year, free. And the actual discussion we don't know, but we know it was something. He was always careful not to get into any conflict situation. But after, in the meantime, this conflict going on with money and the oil pipes going through Ukraine to transport their commodity, the natural gas, to Europe. The difference between natural gas and petroleum gas is said to be having CO2 emission, which is harmful to the environment, and but natural gas is ethane, methane related, and it doesn't have these toxic. It's said to be not toxic to the environment, and it's an environmentally friendly uh, commodity. Naturally, any country would like to have it. It's the global warm movement zealots would love something like that because it's environmentally friendly and economically viable in terms of having oil coming all the way from Iran and Saudi Arabia, two largest nations in Middle East that produces oil. But this is natural gas and oil coming from Russia, conducive to the environment, going to Europe. All this time it was going through Ukraine. Now, Putin had enough with sharing the profits or whatever, paying Ukraine for that, and he laid the Nord Stream pipelines. That earlier it was a smaller pipeline going all the way through Baltic Sea to Germany, all the way. I don't know exactly. It's approximately about I think 12 to 1300 kilometers. I'm not sure it's miles or kilometers, but thereabouts. And this time, you know, in the last bygone years, Russians came up with a project called Nord Stream 2, a bigger pipeline, It was the company that started the project is known as Nord Stream 2 AG. It's a Swiss company, but when they trace it back, that company is owned by the Russian government and by another company known as Gazprom, 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 owned by that company. The parent company is owned by Russian state. Who were the partners in the project? Shell company, it's a US company. OMV, it's an Austrian company. ENGIE, that's French company. And in Germany, there are two companies, Uniper and Wintershall Dea. These two companies, all these companies became partners with the Russian main company. More than 50% of the cost was borne by the Russian state, and the rest of the partners in the project, they contributed towards the project. Project is complete. It's going to be operational this summer. I don't know if it is June, July, or so, but somewhere in summer 2022. So Russia was going to get rich, and the business, oil business, they were. It said Russia is said to be the second largest natural gas oil producing country in the world. 80% of the oil, this oil they were transporting to Europe was going through Ukraine. Now that has come to an end. Ukraine is upset, and plus Ukraine, it's all these countries, the Eastern Bloc countries, including the former Soviet countries. There are 15 of them, including Russia. Everybody is tired of being with the Soviet Russia because they never saw the light of the day. The the socialist dogma really bankrupted their economy, and they never, like the Western countries, which that promises hope, living standard, life, and greater economy. These countries were just living with the bare minimum. So that itself, they are tired. They want to join the winning side or the rich. You want to be friends with the rich people so that you become part of their club. So that's what literally Ukraine wanted to do. They wanted to become part of NATO, be on the American side. They feel America is the winning side. It's lucrative to be on the American side. It's good to be be on the rich, be in the rich club than what we have been through last 70 some odd years. So that's the conflict. They wanted to become part of NATO. Russia doesn't want it. Russia doesn't want Ukraine to become part of NATO. Why? Because what are the NATO countries? Americans will have all their naval fleets. They will bring it to their NATO partner if Ukraine were to become a NATO country. If they bring it to the territorial Ukrainian water, that is the doorstep, Russian doorstep. Would a superpower like the adversarial, the formidable adversary just being stationed at their doorstep with all their might and weapons? No. So Russia doesn't like that. Ukraine is not going with Russia. They want to go with US. Money is at the bottom of all this conflict. So Putin negotiated. Ukraine is not conceding. They want to have their way, and they don't want to be with Russia. They want to be with America. So that's the conflict. Sad, but the NATO countries after the Second World War, NATO countries in 1949, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, and Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, UK, US. In 1949, they joined US and British NATO forces. If one NATO country is being invaded, all the NATO countries go to defend them. If one country declares war against another non-NATO country, it's like a gang. We are gang members. We'll go. That's what they did to Saddam Hussein. All these countries went and pummeled Saddam Hussein. We're not getting into that. In 1952, Greece and Turkey joined the NATO countries. In 1955, the bad guy in Second World War, the troublemaker, Germany, Now the reformed force in 1955 joined the American capitalist hegemony, became part of NATO. 1982, Spain joined. 1999, former Eastern Bloc countries who were with the communist or socialist countries with Russia, Czech Republic joined, Hungary joined, Poland joined. These are all NATO countries. This is what is happening, right? And Russians after the Second World War, they had something called Warsaw Pact. So many countries that are part of the Eastern Bloc that were part of the Warsaw Pact, that went haywire, didn't last too long because you need money. Money is the ruling force in the world. So this is all about money. Sad. The world is for everybody. Live and let live. But that's not how human nature operates. It's all about power, power, power. Human beings are the worst predators on planet Earth. Any predator in the animal kingdom just just kills another animal for need, for hunger, for survival. Only human beings destroy another nation, another life, not for need, but out of out of the need to rule, for the power, for their ego, for their hegemony. Sad, but that's a reality. This is what is happening. This conflict is about money. What US wants is money, the greater share of money. 50% of the world economy to this day is said to be controlled by US. No matter how much you talk about as emerging power China, still US controlled. Money is controlled by US. The world reserve currency is US dollar. Everything is based off US. And they control the banking system, preventing Russia from. You may be the having all the best commodities, but if you cannot bring it to the market, you're going to be poor. You cannot sell it. Russia has the resources Russia has, US wants to block. Now this conflict broke out. Putin has I think he took a I think he, as they say, he was pushed to the hilt, and he had no choice. He took this drastic internecine approach. He has become very unpopular. The world opinion is turning against him. But what would he do if you were in his position? What I'm not trying to justify what he did is right, but if you were, the bad guys are pretending like good guys, and the guy who comes out and does the bad thing, everybody's condemning, right? But you don't judge someone by the actions, but what drove him to do this is what you need to look at. But who brought about this situation? That's what you need to worry. War is evil. We don't want war. We don't want human suffering. This world is for everybody. Live and let live. This is what we wanted in the world. May peace prevail. May this bloody conflict end before we know, without human suffering. Let it be your prayer and thought. This is what I have to say. Thank you for listening.